Hey gang, it's Michael here. Went camping this weekend. Had a fantastic time. The weather wasn't the greatest. We had a lot of clouds and kind of chilly evenings. Actually got down to 35 at night. But still, it was a wonderful time camping, and I've camped in everything imaginable anyway. We went down to Cottonwood Falls, Kansas, and just spent a couple of days hanging out with one of my very best friends of all time, a guy named Brad. But we did go into town, and Cottonwood Falls is just a little tiny community, and it looks like their main industry anymore is attempting to bring in tourists, and they do fairly well, I guess. But anyway, while we were there, we were in town, and we started looking around and spent some time down there. Both days, actually, both Friday and Saturday. But Friday, we happened to step into an antique shop. I don't even know why I walked into it. And I'd walked around. I was ready to leave. And Brad says, hey, you know, there's a whole bunch of albums over here. So I dug through albums while he did some running around looking for a couple of things that we needed. Found some great stuff. I ended up in two different shops. The first one, everything was $2. The second one, they were $1 a piece, unless I wanted to go into. They had one box downstairs where they had, collector prices on them. And I almost went ahead. They had Sly and the Family Stone, their first album. I think it's their first album. Anyway, for like $10. And it looked to be in pretty good shape, I will say that. But I don't know. Something rankled me about that. However, upstairs they had boxes of stuff for $1 a piece. And I picked up a few things. And they had some other stuff. I might go back. I do think I want to go back down there for several reasons. Anyway, picked up a bunch of stuff. This is one of my $2 finds. Connie Francis, Do the Twist. Have not played it yet. MGM, it's good and heavy. It's got this black label. I'm not even sure, it's not... The Twist. Oh, man. But couldn't pass that up. And could not pass this up. I think this was from... I'm not sure if I got which store I got this at now. I think maybe I got this for $1. The Funky Kings, which recently came up. I hadn't really thought about it, but Jules Shear was in the Funky Kings. And so this is the Funky Kings, and is in absolutely gorgeous condition. Everything I bought is just, as far as condition goes, pretty much beautiful. Here again, I think I paid $2 for this. As you can see, it had been belonged to a library. The Folk Music of Kashmir on Folkways has the usual little educational thing in one side. Not a booklet, really. Kind of a booklet, but just a couple of sheets. And then the album itself, and the album appears to be in absolutely beautiful condition. It's got one scratch on it, but I cannot feel it, and it looks pretty light. So I'm thinking it's not really going to affect play. If it does, that'll be too bad. But Folk Music of Kashmir. I love Kashmiri food. I've never had an album of Kashmir folk music before. Here, bless her heart, they put a little sticker right on the front of it. But the, what is this now? The third album, and that I've found for next to nothing by Sean Phillips. Might not have gotten it. I hate this cover art, and I don't like most of the cover art, other than that one album cover, Second Offering, which is just powerfully done image. But that's just awful. However, on the other hand, that third album that I picked up by him really surprised me and seemed to be going in some interesting directions. So I'm kind of hoping that I'll really be happy with this. A few more here. Yeah, this is why I ended up digging and buying there. I'm not sure about the edition, at when exactly, but this is still wrapped in shrink. It's never been opened all the way out ever, and for $2, I'm not going to pass it up. And the album looks like it's a brand new record. Of course, it does have the libretto with it. Jesus Christ, Superstar. A rock opera by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. And I'm not as far as Broadway musicals and what have you. I am not the world's biggest Andrew Lloyd Webber fan, but yeah, this album is an iconic album from the early 70s that it's just, how could I pass this up in this kind of shape? So, yeah, glad to have it. Haven't played any of these yet other than the last one that I'm going to show you. Trilobites. This is a 4-song EP on Ruart. Came out in 1988. I vaguely remember this, and I hope that my memory was good, that I liked it. Did not have it in the past. It's whoever owned it took very good care of it. They put it in a special anti-static inner sleeve, and although I do have the original inner sleeve as well. Can't wait to listen to this and see what I think today of it. And for $2 again, still in the shrink. How can you lose? Here's a 12-inch single, Marianne Faithfull, Broken English, and Why'd Ya Do It? Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to playing this too. And another album I've never heard. I love Taj Mahal. There's one album in particular by Taj Mahal that I absolutely have to have. Do not have it other than a really awful, bootleg download. I hate to confess, but that's what it was. And that is the album Take a Giant Step / Deal, Folks at Home. Great album. This is much later. This is from I saw it 78, so a good 10 years after the album that is my Taj Mahal Grail, but still well worth having. Taj Mahal is a great musician. Always happy to pick up a new Harry Belafonte album if it's in great shape and if it's early enough. This has a lot of great stuff. Waterboy, Suzanne, Matilda, Jump Down, Spin Under, Sylvie, Unchained Melody. That'll be interesting. But, still has an inner sleeve, and the album just looks perfect. And appears to be mono. Not sure yet, but I wasn't going to walk away from that. And I hope I done good with this. This might be a great record, or it might be awful, but here it is. Miss Peggy Lee, Something Groovy. The song Something Stupid, Making Whoopee, You Must Have Been a Beautiful Baby, Two for the Road. Great song. I love it when Frank Sinatra sings it. Love Is Here to Say. Peggy Lee, pretty awesome most of the time. Sometimes she doesn't quite make it, but here it is. It's on that beautiful rainbow Capitol and looks unplayed. So either I'll love it and then here, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. One of these, at least, will be going. I bought both of these and then didn't realize that it's the same album, and I'll have to double check. This is John Clemmer Finesse on Nautilus Super Discs, and this is a direct-to-disc recording of John Clemmer. And then this is the same title, John Clemmer Finesse, on Elektra Musicians. So I'm not really sure. Not sure what the deal is here. One's Elektra Musician, the other is this Nautilus Super Series, and I don't really know. Well, I can tell right away this is more of a audiophile record. I don't know. Maybe they'll both end up going to the same person. And that individual had sent me and started me on getting interested in archive productions. Here again, this is so annoying. I wish they would not do that. So they bought it for $1 somewhere. On Archive Productions, it's Tanzmusik per Praetorius Zeit. Dance music from the time of Praetorius. And these Archive Productions are pretty cool. They seem to have gone through a few odd... here, they've made this all a fold-out like that in order to play the... or read. I've seen them where those were... included booklets and whatnot. It just sort of varies. Archive Production was, if I remember right, it was a subsidiary of Deutsche Grammophon, as I recall, and they were reissuing very specific and very special recordings on this, and doing a whole lot of research and just generally making. So anyway, glad to have it, and I do love ancient music, as they call it. Anything pre-Baroque pretty much is considered ancient. So glad to have it. Getting closer and closer to my. Couldn't pass this up for $2. Michael Franks, The Art of Tea. I'm not a huge Michael Franks fan, but this album has very, very fond memories for me, and it's like a brand new record. What could I do? I had to. Got this one. It was $1. Doesn't, here again, looks like it's never been played. On Philips, made in France, and Los Incas El Condor Pasa. It's a double LP of what I believe are traditional Inca music. I'm not sure. I haven't played it yet. I haven't heard it. But wasn't going to walk away from that for $1. $1. Jesse Cullen Young. And as you guys know, I am a fan. And I will grab pretty much anything I see by him anytime I see it. And here again, it's in the shrink. The album looks just mint. There's not even a scratch on this record. Nothing. Not even a brush mark. So very, very happy to find that. And for $1, where I least expected it, can't go wrong. Absolutely can't go wrong with that. Boy, I am kind of tired. Now, okay, now we're down to the two that most excited me. Recently, Dr. Deadwax, Mark Dines, put up on his Facebook page a photograph of an album by a band called Christmas. And I had made the comment that there were 3 bands that I knew of named Christmas, with the Canadian band that he showed, who recorded in the late 60s and early 70s, being the being the first. The second band called Christmas was this band right here. Christmas, the ultra prophets of the psychic revolution. Michael Kudahi, Elizabeth Ann Margaret Cox, and Nicholas Kudahi is who the band was. And I mentioned them, this band, when I did my thing about Pep Lester. And yes, Pep Lester, or Phil Milstein as he is properly known, does bring in some things. He does do some playing here. MVA, oh no, that's his name. Musical Saw, Tapes, and Bowls Full of Water. So that he does add something to this. There's a third band called Christmas that operates out of the Pacific Northwest. Couldn't believe that this was sitting there for $2 in that pile of records, and the number one find. And this is, for me, sort of a grail. I do have a copy of this, but my copy is really, really ragged and worn out. Peter Ivers, Nirvana Peter. This is a posthumous record. If you may or may not be familiar with Peter Ivers, he was the host of a television show called The New Wave Theater. It was on the USA cable Night Flight. It was on Night Flight, late night thing out of LA. But he was so much more than that. And among other things, one thing you may not know about him, he loved blues. He decided at a young age he was going to, as a teenager, he wanted to play the harmonica. And he just threw himself into it and learned, really learned. And grew up in the New York or Boston area. I'm trying to remember which. There's a very good biography about him. I think the title of it is In Heaven Everything Is Fine. That song, which is that from Twin Peaks, or no, it's from Brazil, I think. The Radiator sings it. Was written by Peter Ivers, and is probably the song he's best known for. But he while he was still living back east, he started going to blues clubs and stuff, and he became friends with Muddy Waters. And Muddy Waters said of him at one time, and this was after little Walter had died, but said that Peter Ivers was the greatest living harmonica player, harp player. Peculiar voice. He did not sell well. It was also associated with a lot of other very interesting people. And his early albums, and by the way, this is the only album by him that I have on vinyl. His early album, very hard to find. Very hard to find his music. There's nothing on YouTube. Nothing. Every time anything gets put up, the company takes it. It's as though they don't want him to be remembered. It really does feel that way. He was murdered in the early 80s. I'm trying to think of when. I'm thinking like 84 maybe. I don't remember exactly. And never solved, although in the in the biography, there's a lot of intimation, and I think it's probably true that he had been murdered by his producer, because he had told him that he was going to quit, that he wasn't going to continue doing New Wave Theater. Brilliant guy, brilliant harmonica player, and I can tell you that. I know that as a harp player. But not a blues musician, really. What he does is utterly different than that. Cannot tell you. If you run into any Peter Ivers, oh God, grab it. I'll pay you. That's it. That's what I got. Not a whole lot. Spent a few bucks I really hadn't thought about spending when I started going down there. had a wonderful weekend, and glad to be home. Though I'm in need of some rest now. Consumed just a few more alcoholic beverages than I normally do, and didn't get me all messed up, but definitely I feel like I've had a good long weekend of rest and relaxation that I still need to relax now for recovery purposes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's it. Had a fantastic time. Found some great records. I cannot believe these two were in that little town in an antique shop. They might have sat there a long time before anybody recognized what they were, but I got there first. Ha ha!